What's up, YouTube? Just have to preface this video by saying the Charger has a Posi Sure Grip rear end and down 373s, and that's it behind me, and it's complete. But this video you're watching, unfortunately, I was not able to get a good smoky burnout, much less any donuts in this car in this video. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you now, this video is not up to the quality I wanted it to be. And it's unfortunate because it is more than capable of doing it, but it just didn't make it into this video. Now, you'll see I've got a tripod camera sitting here, and when I say a camera, I don't mean just my normal GoPros here. I've got my Canon camera I was gonna use, and my other GoPro, which you normally see me having at least 2 GoPros in the car. I have my tripod here. My battery's dead on my Canon camera. I won't have replacement batteries for 2 days, so I can't have all the footage I was gonna have for this video, but I want to go ahead and get this video out about the rear end rebuild. So there's another video gonna be coming. I just want to put this in the beginning of this video I'm about to release by tomorrow, but it's gonna be some really good footage. I'm gonna have a tripod set up on the outside so you can see the car, not just attached to the car. I figured you guys want a better angle of the car. Of it doing a burnout, doing some crazy stuff. Unfortunately, in this video, you may be wondering why I start doing a burnout and I quit multiple times. And it's because of traffic. No matter where I went, I have back roads that I go to, away from cars, away from houses and subdivisions and everything. But so many people have moved into this area now. No matter what used to be the country, there's so many people living here now. So I even try to go odd hours when people should be at home and not in the middle of the road. But literally everywhere I went, I get out to attach my cameras and turn them on, and here comes cars, and I had to hurry up and get the cameras on or turn them off or move them or get out of the road. It was beyond aggravating. I spent an hour and a half in the last 2 days trying to get footage to complete this video. So where it looks like I'm just trying to go out and just make some hits and make some videos, that's exactly what I was trying to do. Like just rogue, trying to go out and get some footage. My normal places I go to, there's just either people out there, there was maybe some LEs out there, and I just couldn't make it happen. So hopefully over the next week or so, I'll be able to go out, get my tripod set up, get some really good angles and footage of some classic muscle car burnouts with this car now, to show you what the 373s and the Sure Grip Posi are doing, because it makes a big difference. To the point that I'm actually having to adjust my tune in the transmission to get it to shift the way I want, because it's turning up really fast. But other than that, it's doing phenomenal. But just wanted to put this in the front of the video. Enjoy the video. I hope you like the content. I've had to try to put a little bit of comedy in there, me and Melvin talking and me not knowing anything about setting up the rear end, the backlash and all that. But also I get in there and talk about, and I show you how I put it back in the car and hook the axles up and add the fluid and all the normal technical stuff I add to it. And I give you a drive and my, kind of how I liked it. Any questions, let me know. And again, sorry I don't have a big smoky burnout for you, but I was really hoping to capture that. That's coming soon. Stay tuned. You'll see this car very soon doing just that. Talk to you later. So you may be wondering, where exactly did I take my differential? My Dodge Chrysler differential to be worked on? What? Well, it just so happens the same place that builds my motors is where we took the differential. Look at that. So, my good buddy Melvin is gonna build this differential for me. All right, a little in progress here. Here's the diff tore apart. There's the old parts. There's the old ring and pinion. And some of the old stuff here. So, we got it tore apart. And now it's to clean everything up here. All right, I got my Chrysler rear end here getting put together by none other than Melvin at Fastlane. He is going to explain this to me because I don't know shit about what I'm doing. Right? So what'd you say? You set the backlash on it?
Well, we'll start with the backlash. That was the last thing we do. But 8 to 10 on the backlash on this new gear on this Chrysler, which we're coming in about 9 thousandths, 8.5 to 9. So we're good on that.
All right.
You'll show you pattern in a minute. Drag and load on his front pinion was 15 inch-pounds, which is where we are on that.
Okay.
So we're good on the backlash. So we're going to remove this. And then we'll look at the pattern that we ran on it. As you can see, the pattern is as perfect as you can get. I don't think it gets any better than that pattern. This is your drive side pattern.
Okay.
As you can see there. You can see it better where it kind of spreads on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I just put it half and half to, you know. But if you want to look at the other side, you can check these teeth in here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about as close as you'll get to a really, really good pattern. And if you really want to run it in, we can actually check it pretty good running in.
Okay.
Good horsepower and a half anyway. Maybe one jackass power. That's a good way to check the load on it, so you can put a little pressure on both sides of the gear.
Okay.
And then come look at it.
Cool. That's kind of nice to be able to take this out of the housing compared to like the Mustangs where you can't, well, if they don't have a 9-inch, you can take it out like that and run it. That's cool.
Yeah, but it's easy. We don't have to pull that out on the Mustang. You can do it all in the car.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think it'll be fine.
Nice. Now I'll be able to spin both tires.
I put the clips in it. And
Okay.
good.
Hell yeah. Won't be long. I'll have that Charger back on the road with some 373s. What do you think about those gears though? I think they're Richmond gear, aren't they?
They're Yukons.
Yukon? You have much luck with Yukon?
We don't use them much, but they use them a lot in the trucks and stuff. But we try to stay with the Ford racing gears, but I don't think they make any for this.
If they did, I would have had a set. You can bet your ass. One thing that was weird was this thing took a left-handed ring gear bolt. Because I was going to put some damn Mustang ring gear bolts in this thing. I went to put them in. Not only were they too big, they had the wrong threads to them. Which is odd. But wouldn't you say the car came with left-hand threads on the driver's side and right-hand threads on the passenger side? Somebody had already broke them off by the time I got my car and had to change them. So, but apparently back in the day, that's how they did it on a few vehicles. Was it all Dodge or was it certain other vehicles had it?
Mostly Dodge.
Just Dodge. Chrysler Dodge. Mopar. Next time you see it, I'll be sticking it in the car and doing some burnouts maybe. So you probably just got through watching my Fastlane vid. All week I've been working at Fastlane and turning wrenches, which has been a great experience. But today I'm actually going to be working on the 68 Dodge Charger. I'm sure you've been wondering what's been going on. Well, we've been so busy at Fastlane. I've been trying to help out up there. And Melvin, as you can tell, is the guy I took my differential to fix it. So here it is, it's back. And that's the Sure Grip, which is Mopar's way of calling it a limited slip differential. And there's my 373 gears, which are from Yukon. And it's all set up. You see everything's put back together. And part of this video, probably before this, you'll see the, I got Melvin demonstrating it how and talked about how he set it up. You see the ARP ring gear bolts I bought and put on it. They are left-hand thread, by the way. And all the other parts came from Cass at Dr. Diff. You see the bigger parts here on the front. What I have to do now is this tedious task, which I've already started down here and worked my way up to here and stopped last night. But this is the factory gasket. See how it's just about like permanently attached itself to the rear end. you gotta scrape this off. And when I say scrape it off, it's a real pain to do. So I've got to scrape all that off and clean it so it looks like this all the way around. Then I've got to get the rest of this fluid out of here. All right, now it's all cleaned up. A little brake clean on it, get any oil residue off, clean the inside out. And you got your gasket to put on and make sure your holes all line up. So a little silicone all the way around first. We put on our gasket next, like this. Go ahead and push that down a little bit. Get that seat. And again, this is to make sure if there's any imperfections in the housing, scratches, gouges, anything of that nature, that the gasket itself may not seal, then this should take care of it, because nobody wants to have to take all this back off and reseal it. All right, so once you get the housing on, need to make sure these nuts are clean, because I had a couple, the threads didn't want to go in, and there was some kind of residue in it. It actually looked like red Loctite. I don't know what it was, but I had to take a pick and some brake cleaner and spray it and clean it out with my dental pick, and then they went down just fine. So you tighten them down a little bit at a time. Make sure you read your instructions on your silicone, because the silicone I'm using actually says it's Permatex Ultra Black. It tells you to go ahead and put your parts together while everything is wet, finger tighten it till it squeezes out around the flange, then let it dry for 1 hour and then tighten the torque specs. Allow 24 hours to fully cure before adding any fluid. So that's what I was doing. I'd actually laid it up here. If you saw me before, I put everything in, put the pumpkin or the hogshead, whatever you want to call it, in there. Then I was getting my nuts and all cleaned up for it to put on while it was sitting here. It's been approximately half an hour to 45 minutes. Now I put the nuts on it, started tightening them down in sequence with my impact there. I got them down to roughly about 15 pounds of torque. And then I used my torque wrench and I started doing it in stages. So I did 20 pounds of torque all the way around. Then I went up to 25, then 30, then 35 and 40. And you want to end up at 45 foot-pounds of torque. So just to show you, it's on 45 now. And that's all the way around like that. And I like to do the star pattern. And you basically just go around the star pattern. And so before I get too far, I want to show you how to change the universal joint on your drive shaft. Figured I'd go ahead and do that while I'm under the car. So I've already got the old one off. It's pretty simple, and I'm going to put the new one in. So the short end actually is going in my shaft here, and the bigger end's going up here. Just to give you an idea, what you want to do first is when you get your kit, you want to put your little plug in right here. That is going to be your grease fitting. I'm going to sit that right here out of the way. So you put that in, you add some grease, you actually squeeze all the caps together to make the grease come out. So it looks like that. And there's a reason for doing it that way, because I have to start taking these caps off to get it into the joint, and then I have to tap the caps in from the outside down like this to secure it. And then I put these clips in that hold it in place. But the problem is, if you don't grease it beforehand, let me take this old one apart and let me show you. See these little pins in here, these rollers? If they're not greased, those can easily come out and fall on the floor and disappear on you. And they're a real pain to put back in. So if you grease it, it actually holds them in place nice and easy, and then you can slide it back together like this. As long as I got them lined up, that is. And make sure, and then boom, just like that. So, little trick here, go ahead and assemble it, grease it up really good, then when you pull your caps off, our little roller pins stay in place. So, I'm gonna pull that apart now. Basically, you pull the caps off, you slide it in here, your actual joint, then you put a cap in, then you put a cap in here, and then you can squeeze it together, you tap it. I actually tap mine with a hammer until I get it flat on each side. Then I have a socket. In this case, it is a 11/16 socket that I use, and I put it on here and I drive it down until it's to the depth it needs to be. You want it deep enough just to get your clip in this little slot, which is right in here, and that holds your spring clip. You do that, you rotate it, you do the other side, and once your clips are in, you're done. Your joint's in place, and from there, you attach it up here, and up here is different. This one actually has a little clamp that goes over and bolts down. All right, so I've got the drive shaft assembled here, and I went ahead, just so you can see how the little safety pins go in. They fit inside a little notch here on the end. Pretty self-explanatory. Once you get the cap past it, you can put the safety pin in, make sure it's in there tight, and do the other side. And then you put this into the new retainer here. That's a 1350 joint, so it slides in here. Now mine was really tight, probably because I greased the bearings. I had to push on a few times and get it to slide down in here. And now you put your little retainer clips on here. I call them clips, just a little U-bolt type of clamp. And to get them on, sometimes they won't drop in from the side. You just rotate the shaft up. They go in from the top, you have more room. And then you put the lock washer and nut, but I also like to put a little dab of blue Loctite on it. So I'll put a little dab on each one of these, then I'll torque these down. And once I do that, this part is done. So my drive shaft now is complete with the new universal joint to match the new pinion yoke. Real quick, I had to attach the pinion snubber. I didn't have it attached. So before I let the car down, got the drive shaft in, reattached the pinion snubber. It actually hits right here at the body when the rear end starts to rotate up. So I had to reattach that. I was gonna paint it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna take the time to paint it right now. Might come back in here later and spray the rear end black and all that. But for now, just reattach that. All right, just got the seal in this one driver's side there. You can see it. You can see how far deep it is. There's a little ridge in there. You wanna make sure you got all the way down to the ridge. That way it's all the way in where it needs to be. The seal is pretty tight. So to put the seal in, what I do is I take a little bit of axle lubricant, put on my finger and go around the inside edge here to give it something to slip on. I put it on the outside edge of the seal on the metal. And then right before I put it in, I take a wrench like this and actually just bend the outside metal tabs in just a hair all the way around. And that actually helps to get this thing started because it can be a pain. So then I fit it in here, make sure it's even, and then you want to start pushing your thumb on it to get it as even as possible. And then what you want is something like an oversized socket or something, and then you want to just kind of take a rubber hammer like so and hit on your oversized socket in a round pattern till you get it started. If you get it too hard on one side, it'll cockeye like this and it won't go in. You have to get it started evenly, and once it's even, you just keep tapping it around till you get it to shove all the way down in there. So just slow and steady wins the race in this case. Once you get all the way in, take a rag like so and just wipe out any excess. The paint will actually come off of that metal seal part. It'll be all in here, so you just need to wipe all that out. And once it's all wiped out and dry, we can switch and go do the other side. And then I'll come back, I'll clean the surface of this a little bit better because I haven't got all the old remnants there. See that I'll get all that off before I put the new gaskets that I got on here. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm putting a little bit of gear oil on the splines of the axle shaft, just so it's got a little bit of lubrication before it goes in. I wipe just a little bit around the seal here, and I put a little bit around this bearing seal, just so when I slide it into the housing here, it's not completely dry. I've got my gasket on there, and now I'm getting ready to put it all together. What is this bearing seal? In there. And then, once you get to that point, try to bring it up and push it in with these. Here. Done. Goes on like this. And now I just need to put my nuts on it here. Show you. Put the nuts on it to hold the retainer in place. And that's it. Tighten it down. I put my bar across here for the brakes, set the brakes back up. And I've already torqued them down. I'm doing my final torque now. 35 foot-pounds. Okay, so I've gone all the way around. First I did them to 15, and then 25, and now 35. So you just turn this around. There's a big hole right here. Put your torque wrench through, and done deal. I have got my brake shoes back on. Because I did a partial disassembly, all I had to do is hook the adjuster back up in the spring at the bottom and reattach this little holder here. Just take some pliers and push it in and quarter turn it, and that holds that back in. Then you can pop your adjuster in and the spring. And a trick for the spring, just put the spring on one side, take a flat screwdriver and hold it here. You can pop the spring back in place, and just make sure you push it with some pliers and push the spring, just fully seat it all the way down right here. You should be good to go. You need to put a little dab. I always like to pull this adjuster sleeve out and put a little bit of grease down in there just to make sure it spins freely. That's just for my own edification. And other than that, everything else looks really good. So I'm getting ready to put the drum on it. Just want to show you what it looks like in real time here. I've already wiped the drum out. I'll slide this on, make sure everything looks good. It does. The first thing I like to do is I like to go ahead and put in the friction modifier first. So this is it. And it doesn't come with a little squeeze attachment for the top, which is fine. You just need to get you a little funnel. I actually have my gear oil, and this is the 85 weight 140 GL5 gear oil. And any old gear oil will work. You don't want synthetic necessarily. And Cass told me just get the standard, the cheapest stuff you can find. He says, as long as it's 85 140 GL5, you'll be good to go. So I have this gallon size, which is really cheap. It's only like 20 bucks down at O'Reilly's. So I bought this little attachment here, which will screw on top. Gives me a nice little line. I can come right here, stick the line in, and literally squeeze the bottle, hang it up over here from the back side, and squeeze it in. And basically what you're gonna do, you're gonna fill this thing up until it runs out the hole. And once it runs out the hole and levels out, you're good to go. Put your plug in and you're all set. All right, as you can see, I filled it up. It's starting to run down and drip out the bottom here. So that's what you wanna do. You wanna fill it up, let it sit for a minute till it drips out. See, it's dripping. And that little attachment I had worked great for a little bit. You just got to squeeze this bottle. It takes a while because that's really thick stuff. So I end up using my turkey baster to get the rest of it out. Tilt the bottle sideways, use a little turkey baster here, suck out the residual fluid in the bottom, and then pump it up in here. And then it looks like this. You'll have just a little bit left out of these, out of the gallon container here. But that's what you want. You want it where it just barely drips out of the hole. Drain plug back in there, which looks like this. Now, it probably wouldn't hurt to put a little Teflon paste or Teflon tape on here. But because I'm gonna check it again in a little bit, I'm not gonna put that on here just now. But just know before I finish this whole job, I'm gonna go back once I check it the next time, and I'll probably put a little Teflon paste or tape on here and tighten that down for the final. So I just got through warming it up, run through the gears for about, I don't know, 10 minutes forward, and ran it in reverse for a few minutes as well. Popped the plug out, went ahead and shot some more gear oil in it. It took about not quite a third of my syringe here. And then as you can see, it started leveling itself back out. So I'm gonna let it finish. And once it finishes, I've got some thread sealer here. I'm gonna put on the fill plug, and then I'll wipe all this off and then go for a test drive. All right, so one step I almost forgot. I gotta go into my TCM, my transmission control module. I've got this aftermarket software here. And basically I had to open it up, and I go in here to my gear ratio. Right now it's at 276. And I'm going to select that, and I'm going to change that to 373, which is the new gear ratio. There we go. And now that I've done that, I will save this file, save the calibration file as and that's it. Now to make sure it takes, you just basically cycle the key, you turn it off, and then you turn it back on. You'll see it's offline. We'll go back online here, and then we'll read the calibration. No, we're just gonna call it this. Same one. It's gonna open back up. And hopefully now everything is just like it was before. There should be no changes. Go to my gear ratios here, and there it is, 373. Perfect. And my drive tire, this is where you manipulate the drive tire size. It's not a 22 diameter, but you have to manipulate it until you get your speedo to read correctly. This is what the guy who makes the software, the PCS software, told me when I bought it from him. He said, just manipulate this. It doesn't really affect the rest of the shift points. Leave everything else the same. All right, first test, 39. Looks like 39. So, 40 and 40. Yep. 42, 43. Pretty close. So, I got my speedometer reading correctly. I'll run the back of this Mach-E real quick. But right now, the rear end's nice and quiet. It's shifting good with these 373s. I can tell when I pulled out, the acceleration's definitely improved. When I say definitely, it's a very noticeable difference in acceleration. So that's good. That was the biggest thing I was looking for. Not only to get the sure grip posi differential so I can spin both tires, but also just having better acceleration, because the 276 gears, it was just taking forever to accelerate. And this is a big heavy car to begin with, so